Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups and relationship issues. And today I want to review this video with Rollo Tomasi and discussing, are women hotter when they're younger? I'll get into my point of view at the end of the video on this. I'll chime in throughout the video. But let me know in the comments, what's your thoughts on women over 40? Are they still attractive? I'll give you my take later. Let's get into the video.
Is she flaking on you for dates? That's the message. Is she sort of indecisive about being with you? Is she making you jump through hoops? Women break rules for alpha males and they make more rules for beta males. Is she making you rules? If that's the case, then her attraction to you or interest in you is probably not what it ought to be, because women will break rules to get with a guy who is so high value, because women understand that they can't afford to miss out on that opportunity with a guy who's a high value guy. So they will tend to break rules for that guy and make rules for guys, like you're saying before here, where it's like they'll try to cover it up with love, right? Or they'll try to cover up the lack of like being hot for that guy with other things. Guys will do exactly the same thing too. They'll try to convince themselves that she's really into it, but she's really not into it. And I said, is she making rules for you? That's number one. If you want one sort of litmus test for your dating, is she making rules for you, or is she breaking rules for you because she really wants to get with you? She has this really just hot desire for you. And then I think probably.
So right here, he's just talking about some of the things that come up the most for advice in his own manosphere and his own following. People come to him. And that's a really interesting point, that are women making rules for you, or are they making exceptions to their rules for you? And that would obviously tell you that they're really into you, right? Because it goes the other way also, right? There's men out there that will be with women that they're head over heels for, highly attracted to, outstanding intimacy, and they'll break rules more often than not for those reasons. I've had that in my coaching experiences with clients that are in breakups. They're complaining, they're bitching, they're moaning. She did this, she did that. She doesn't accept my friends. She doesn't respect me. And I'm like, well, why are you with her? The intimacy's outstanding. That's what we end up getting to. And a lot of times, my point being in that is, you're making exceptions, you're breaking some of your rules, you're accepting behavior you wouldn't normally accept in lieu of how hot she is or how attractive she is or how good the intimacy is. Whereas on the flip side, women will make exceptions to rules, such as guys that they find to be really high value, which I'm getting tired of this term, but it comes up again and again. And, in the States, in America and stuff like that, it would be money, a great body, whatnot. And so he's saying if they're making exceptions to their rules, then they're all in, right? Come back to this one. There's always someone that cares more in the relationship than the other person. It's usually the person that values the other person more. So this idea of having an equal relationship, on the surface, it sounds really good, but there's always going to be someone that rules the relationship, and that's the person that cares less. And that relates to who's going to make exceptions to their own rules, morals, and values. All right, let's get back into it.
The third most common is, how do I get my wife to have sex with me again?
Wow.
How do I get her back? Most of the guys who I deal with who are older and they are married, that's their primary concern, because they think that they used to be able to have sex with her, and maybe this is true, when they were single, and then they got married and she turned the sex spigot off.
Can I, from a female person, I'm not married obviously, but I speak to a lot of women also, like about marriage and lack of sex, and I have a lot of men also messaging me asking, all those 13%. So what I think is, in the beginning, when you were dating your person, you were doing a lot. You were taking her on dates and you were doing this, and maybe you both were more fit or you were hotter or whatever. Like, everything was just more exciting. Now sex became like a chore, and guys don't, like, he's not gonna, give you a little sexy massage, and you're not gonna he's gonna come to you in bed. You're gonna be like, oh, you wanna fuck? You wanna do it? That's what men do nowadays.
I got half an hour.
And that's,
I got to fold laundry. I got to fold laundry. So
My question is, why is she blaming men? Oh, that's what men do these days. These situations are different in different cases. This is a complete generalization. When couples get married, and I'm not married right now, but from what I hear, Rollo's been married 26 years. Both of them are going to have their own experiences, their own biases towards this. My take on why sex goes down in a lot of marriages is because priorities change, right? If you're going to have kids, if you're going to have a house payment, if you're going to do the whole 9-to-5 thing, which a lot of people do, or overtime to support the kids and the household, basically sex goes to the back of the bus. And also on top of that, when you start living with each other, spending 24 hours together, what happens is one person's ready, it's in their schedule, they're in the mood, the other person's completely not in the mood, someone gets rejected, and then they don't try again. Then they don't try again for a month. And the other part of it is just being sick of being with the same person over and over again. So what's the alternative? Like, oh, you have to date, you have to be more romantic. If that's the kind of couple you are, yeah, but not everyone's like that. You're going to have to find that way on your own and make time. I would say that meeting in places outside of the home, because environments count so much, is a big one. But getting back to this video, this woman goes straight into blaming the guy, right? Because that's straight what she goes for. But the woman could be blamed plenty of times, because a lot of times clients of mine, they'll say the woman basically rejected them multiple times and then they just stopped trying, right? And the woman was oblivious to it, and then something will come up like, oh, I'm just not in the mood, I'm not this, I'm not that, it's not that important. The list goes on. Bottom line is, I'll come back to this again. Get tailored advice. So if you're having trouble in your relationship, go to someone like Rollo, if he's doing coaching, myself, Corey Wayne, any of these people out there. Get tailored advice. Get into details. These videos have a lot of general advice, and she's just like this woman's doing. I. She doesn't speak for all women, okay? Rollo is much more objective, and he makes points based on studies and different things like that, where you can tell when you watch this video, she's going to come back to, I have a couple friends. I did this. I did that. So everything's coming from her point of emphasis, her life experience.
You finish up.
And that's what happens in marriages now. It's not special anymore. It's like, just like you said, let's do this now so we can do the laundry later. And you're not into it. And I feel it's both sides.
Is that just inevitable in every relationship? Is that like
I don't think so.
number? Oh, really?
If you make it like that, yeah, then it is. But you should work on your sex life the same way you work on your like day-to-day things.
Speaking of sex life, I want to bring up this, and then we're going to get to the celebrity stuff. The sexual market value. We've spoken about this at length. Are you familiar with this sexual market value?
Bit, please.
You've just been talking about it the whole time.
Exactly. So would you break down sexual market value? So let me ask you a question first, then we'll get to Rollo. Would you say that you are at your peak sexual market value right now at age 30, 31?
I think that I'm the best now that I've been before.
Okay.
I'm the best, whatever. The grammar is not my side. I'm the best I could be right now.
You're the best version.
Says her, right? Great answer. Doesn't even seem confident about that answer, by the way. Grammar thing's not a big issue, but this is where we get into this age thing and where you're at your best. I would say that, Rollo's going to talk about this a little further and give some specific points of age. Obviously, people look better in their 20s, but interestingly enough, there's a lot of human beings out there that hit their stride in their 30s, get a personal trainer, maybe are at a different place, maybe read a self-improvement book. So there's so many variables to this. And so reading this kind of data, getting these kind of perspectives, if you notice, again, she's giving her personal perspective of her and then saying, well, this is what I think, and this is what women do. The reality to all this stuff, personal opinion's great. This is why sometimes when you hear Andrew Tate, I've heard him say, like, this is my opinion. This is what I think. Now, he's going to say, this is what men should do. This is what men should do. But the reality is, what do you think as an individual, right? So let's get back into it.
Version of yourself
Yes.
right now.
Yes.
What age do you want to get married by?
I don't really care. I mean, marriage for me is not like, by 30, I already passed it. Like
By 40?
I would like to get married by 40, but it's
By
not
50?
Yeah,
How high of a
40.
priority is it for you right now?
It's not really such a high.
What about kids? What age would you like to have kids by? Do you want to have kids?
I would want to have kids. I want to have kids by, I don't know, 35.
Okay.
So this is kind of interesting because you want to have kids by 35, but you don't mind if you get married at 40 or 50, or it's not really important right now. And so to me, those are congruent, right? One of the biggest reasons that marriage is a good thing is if you're going to raise kids together, right? Most people can agree that two-parent households are better. So this idea that she's at her best at 30 right now, but she doesn't really mind. in my experience with my clients, 33 to 35 is a sweet spot for women that start to panic a little bit about getting a husband, locking a guy down, having kids. And someone might say, oh, you don't have to be 33 to 35. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying in my personal experience as a coach, helping out a lot of different couples, a lot of different women, that seems to be a sweet spot where they start to get a little bit worried. And if things aren't working out in their relationship, they really want to get married or have kids. Not everyone. So she's at 30 right now, and Rollo's going to get a little deeper on this and give his perspective, which I think is good.
I'm gonna give you a case example, and then I want open up to sexual market value. There was a girl that I used to like just be friends with. We kind of like were like dated in high school, whatever. Not dated, but like I actually kind of wanted her more than she wanted me, and it was like whatever, never happened. We went to a party. It was a 40th birthday party last year. Okay, I'm single. I had some serious relationships. I was single, making money. Life's good. She's still single, 40. The reception for the difference between us was palatable. Yo, Adam, what up? 40, single, making money, kill. You're the man, bro. Oh, I won't say her name. Are you okay? Is everything you
And
good?
that's what happens.
So that's my point.
Yeah.
A 40-year-old man, successful, single.
Yeah, but this guy's on a big channel on YouTube, semi-famous, might I say. He's one thing he left out here, right? And this is a personal anecdotal thing. So he's the witness of it. He's portraying it. If we had 5 people there, they might not have seen the scene the same way, right? That being said, what if we threw this in there? If she was rich and had a famous YouTube channel, right? And she was, this guy's, he's eating off Valuetainment and Patrick Bev, but he's got a following or whatever. Not even really a following, but he's on a big platform. Let's just put it that way, right? I don't think those group of people, if this woman had the YouTube channel and the money, she might get the same attention from the group. So I don't think it was just for the reasons that she didn't have a kid, right? And the girl goes, oh, that's just how everyone thinks now. No, this is what I found, okay? I found this. If you're around other people that are married and they're in their 40s and they're in their late 30s and you're not married, that's when they ask you, what's wrong? Because people want you to be like them. Right? So if that woman that was at that party met someone else that was 40 and single, the other person might be more compassionate or like, oh, hey, what's up? How have you been? Da, da, da. But if she meets a group of people that are five married couples or something like that, they're all going to think, why aren't you married? What's wrong? Why aren't you having kids? Friends of mine that have kids, I don't have kids currently, are like, when are you going to have kids? So this is one of those things, oh, this is how people think. No, this is how married couples think, right? People want you to do what they want to do. I've talked about this before. If you meet an alcoholic, they'll ask you, do you want a drink? And you'll say, I don't drink in the afternoon. Oh, come on, have a drink. Why? They want you to do what they do. And so this anecdotal information, which actually makes him look really good, right? Because he's saying, oh, everyone was like, hey, man, you're killing it. But really, is there some people at that party going, this guy was a dork in high school? You know what I mean? Possibly. So again, this is just one frame of a story that's being shared.
Single, no wife, no kids. You're a fucking pimp, bro. Woman, 40, no wife, no husband, no kids. People look at that as being like, you okay?
Yeah.
Like everything,
I know,
you're
I
gonna
know,
be all
I know.
right? You're not gonna kill yourself, are you?
Yeah.
What are your
Major generalization, people look at that. I don't agree. It depends on the group. It depends on the crowd. Not all people look at that. Other people that are married or have kids tend to look at that more because they say, this is how I do it. Why don't you do it the same? Right? And the ironic thing is someone can be in an unhappy marriage and still impose that value onto you. Right? So this idea that, oh, that's how people look at it. That group of people at your high school reunion might have looked at it that way, but that's also just your perception. Right? If me, Rollo, and this other woman were there at that thing, they might see things a little bit differently. Right? And the question is, when we're generalizing about people, if I met someone and she was 40 at my high school reunion and she wasn't famous or anything, and it was someone he's saying that he used to have a crush on and whatnot, I wouldn't react that way. I know I wouldn't because of my life experience. It's not to say I would be so nice, but I wouldn't think there was something wrong with her because she's not married with a kid. I wouldn't have pity or compassion. Now, if she looked like she was strung out on drugs or alcohol, like, damn, she's been through it. She looks like shit. That would be different. But this assumption that everyone feels sorry for you or thinks something's wrong because you haven't been married or had kids yet, I don't think that's a blanket statement you can make about all people. It's very anecdotal and personal. That's just my personal take. Let me know in the comments what you think.
Your thoughts on that? As being a beautiful, high maintenance 31-year-old woman, I doubt you want to be that 40-year-old woman 10 years from now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just the society today, and I would love that to change. I just don't know when it will or what needs to happen for this to change.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what society is what I want to know. So this is the big thing, right? And it would be great if I could talk to Rollo about this, right? Because I think he'd have some insight. The thing is about these generalizations, society, what society? Okay, someone says, oh, American society. Okay, isn't America different in different cities and different areas with different subcultures, right? So this idea that, oh, this is what society wants me to be married by the age of 40. There's plenty of circles and groups of women that you could probably find that would be accepting of the fact that you're 40 without kids and not married. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. So this idea that, oh, everyone just thinks this. I don't think that's true. Is there a large portion? Probably in certain subcultures. I think society isn't that similar anymore. Because of the internet, everyone's making their own choices more often. There's so much more information out there. So this idea that everyone thinks, oh, 40-year-old woman, let me pity her and feel sorry for her. There's plenty of situations where there's guys that like a 40-year-old woman that want to hook up with her, that will find her attractive, right? Is it more common for that to be than being attracted to a 25-year-old woman? No. But I think a 40-year-old woman that's not married with kids has never had more opportunities to meet a guy that would want them, that would find them attractive. Now tell me I'm wrong on that and put it in the comments, please.
But I feel a lot of women, and also that's a question I get often. It's like, I like this guy, like I want to get married. I'm not sure if he's the one, but I've been with him for 7 years now and I don't want to start over and blah, blah. And that women have this pressure when they're in their 30s or late 20s that they need to get married. And then they do get married to this guy who they've been dating for the past 3 years. And then they get married and then they realize 3 years in they're miserable. And then they get a divorce. And then you're starting again. So instead of rushing into marriage because your clock is ticking, there's no clock ticking besides like you can freeze your eggs, do whatever. Like you can do whatever.
But there is a clock ticking though.
There's a
for
clock.
women more than men.
I don't think
There's absolutely a clock ticking. I've witnessed this with clients, 33 to 36, there's a clock ticking. If you want to have kids, yeah, you can freeze eggs. That costs money. I've had clients that actually have done that, 39, 40 years old. I had a client that she was doing that and she was dating at the same time. And she's like, all these guys don't want to date me long term because I'm going to have a kid like this. There's this idea that, oh, you don't have to. Listen, the idea that she's 30 and she's speaking, well, I have clients like this, I have clients like that. The problem with marriage right now is it's difficult because there's so much temptation with these dating apps. There's so much temptation with social media. There's so much out there that says you can live a better life, you can do better, right? And so that's impeding on a lot of this, right? But this idea that someone that's been in a relationship 3 years takes the jump and goes into marriage, the other part of this is people are just willing to get divorced on a whim more than they used to be. Right? They're not going to stay thick and thin. If they're unhappy, they're not going to be shunned for getting a divorce. So this idea that they've chosen the wrong guy, I don't know. I just think that marriage has a shorter trajectory because it's more acceptable than ever before. If you want to get a divorce, get a divorce. No one's gonna find that shameful. And so really, it's not death do us part. It's until there's a major problem, we'll look at it. That's how it is now. It's totally different.
Okay, you guys can.
You agree or don't?
Click
No, I
all
agree
you want.
that there is most definitely a clock ticking.
So you don't think
there's an
but you think
expiration
there is.
date? Put it that way.
Explain that.
All right, so
You're saying women are like
all
milk.
right, so God, I hate that analogy. I really hate
People
that
have used that
analogy.
before. I
What was the
apologize.
analogy?
It's like wine. No,
Expiration
well, not
date.
yeah. We'll get to that. So before I launch into what I'm going to say here, let me explain we're going to have to make a distinction between sexual market value and personal worth, okay? Because women tend to conflate those two. So if I say, well, you know, you're successful, you got a career, you went to college, you make $100,000 a year, blah blah blah. Where's my man? How come I don't have a man right now? Well, the reason is because you've turned yourself into the man that you wanted to marry. That's why. So what happens is we sort of sell women this bill of goods that they need to follow sort of this masculine alpha male life plan. And then they get to 35, 36 years old and they go, where's the guy? Where's the guy that I'm supposed to be with? Well, it's because as things track, the thing is that men and women find different things attractive in the opposite sex. Women believe that men should find things attractive about them that women would naturally find attractive in a man.
Yep.
So when we're looking at between the ages of 18 and about 28 years old, you'll hear people talk about this online all the time. That's the hoe phase, right? That's the party years.
What's the hoe phase?
The hoe phase, 18 to
Oh,
28.
you know it.
I
Come on,
missed it.
Coco.
18 to 28 years
I
old.
would say 18 to 24. If in my experience.
All right, well, the reason I rounded off to the 28 is because 29, 30, 31 is the epiphany phase, and I'll talk about that here in
Well,
just
I
a
agree
second.
with.
So this idea that there's 18 to 28, there's a hoe phase, that they're more promiscuous or more outgoing. I mean, it's possible. I don't think this is every single woman. I've met plenty of women that have only been with 2 or 3 guys in their 20s. That being said, he's right in the sense that a woman that does really well, makes a lot of money, and tends to be more on the masculine side, a leader, these kinds of things. Here's what I would say to that, though, is a lot of these women that are doing really well for themselves, highly independent, and they're like 35, 36, and they're saying, damn, I can't meet a guy on my level. Some of these women settle for doormat type of guys that they can rule around, right? And some of these guys are okay with it. That's completely fine. My woman runs the show. That's what I'm used to. That's what they witnessed from their parents, et cetera, et cetera. It's fine. Everyone's allowed to accept what they want to accept. I'm saying the option for those women that are more like that is probably to be with a guy that's less masculine and more feminine, right? Because they're going to clash. It's kind of like if you look at gay couples, right? There's a feminine and a masculine in that couple. Think about that. So is there a possibility for a heterosexual couple to be the woman masculine and the man feminine? Absolutely. Is that something I want personally? No. Is that something I've ever pursued in a relationship? No. But if someone else wants to do that, it's just fine. Now, from the outside in, someone says there's a problem with that because the guy becomes a doormat or he becomes unhappy. What he doesn't realize is he made that choice. All right, let's get back to it.
I'm so epic, yeah.
So,
Okay.
and I know,
She just had an epiphany right there, bro.
I know what you're going to say too, because I did read that one post you had on Instagram.
I have over 1,000.
If you have read my work, I have the infamous graph. I think I showed it when I was with
Sexual
on
market value,
Patrick's show. So at the peak levels, women sexual market value peak years is about 23 years old, and that's when women are the most fertile. That's when they can have children the easiest. That's when they are at the peak of fertility, their youth. That is the year. That is the age at which every guy from 15 all the way to 95 pegs as the most attractive that women are.
23?
At 23, between 22 and 24. So I average it out to 23.
I barely knew how to brush my hair when I was 22.
Stop it.
Okay, again, she's going to use a personal experience here. Well, when I was 23, these kind of graphs, these kind of studies, they're useful. They're not a law, okay? What do I mean by that? It's like, don't follow these things 100%. There's exceptions to these rules. There's a lot of hot 23-year-old women out there, right? There's a lot to be said that they're probably more fertile than a 33-year-old. I'm with you. And I think there's a range, 23 to 27. A woman looks better. That being said, there's plenty of women out there that could have looked like crap when they were 23, 24, had a big makeover, started doing yoga, going to the gym, eating healthy at 33 and never looked better, and got a boob job, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So there's exceptions to this like never before, right? I get what Rollo's coming from, but it's interesting. She keeps coming back to I, right? And so she's saying this is something that is true, though. I've had clients that are in their 40s or 50s dating women that are 23, 24, 25, and they're very proud. right? They're very proud of the idea that they are dating a younger woman, but the flip side of this, when they have conversations, connections, intellectual type things, they get lost sometimes. And then they go, what happened? What did I say? I said something wrong. They usually lose a little bit of confidence with that woman because they're overcompensating for the fact, I'm in my 40s. I love being with a woman that's 23, 24, 25. It's absolutely wonderful. But what they don't realize, she's more impulsive. She's more immature. She's got less life experience, and therefore when you sit down and have conversations at dinner, you differ on values and morals highly, not just a little bit, right? And so someone might say, who cares? She's hot. Who cares? She's fertile. On the flip side, what she's saying, which is partially true, she's saying when I was that age, I was so different. I'm 30 years old now. I'm so much more mature, right? There's truth to that. Now, here's the thing. A lot of men don't look at it this way. Majority of men find you attractive, fee-fi-fo, you're hot. If intimacy is good, that's a major plus on top of all of that, and it's going to drive the train. That being said, when you start getting into a relationship where you're 6 months, a year, 2 years, and the true colors start shining through, that's when a guy might go, I can't even have a conversation with her. Oh, she blows up over the stupidest things. And that's when a relationship can go sour. But I think if he's talking about just pure attraction, yeah, you're going to win the day in your 20s.
Yeah,
No,
okay.
I don't. You know what? Honestly, when I'm looking at and I'm talking strictly physical right now. When I look at my photos, 20, 21, 23, I'm so much hotter right now. Like I just know how to dress better. I know how to do my hair. I know how to do my
We
makeup.
should probably get like a comparison there and take a poll.
Feel free. Find it on my social media.
So it's one. Well, I'm glad you have high self-esteem. Let's just
Yeah.
start right there. But anyways, between 18 and 28 years old is the hoe. Like women will call it themselves. They'll say it's the hoe face. I didn't make the word. They did. But I call it the party years in my second book.
I don't agree that all women in their 20s are in the hoe phase or the party phase. Okay, that has truth to it, but it definitely doesn't apply to all women. There's plenty of women out there that are preschool teachers, conservative due to their religion, were raised a certain way and have only had 2 or 3 partners, one partner by the time they're 30, 33, right? They're out there. Okay, so this is a generalization. Her going back and saying, I look so much hotter than I was when I was 23, we'll never know until she shows the pictures. Completely biased opinion. And like you said, I'm happy that you have that self-esteem. That's fine. Do I believe women could look better as they get older? Absolutely. There's cosmetic surgery now that was never there before. That's a big one, right? There's the fact that there's values on healthy food and exercise like there's never been before. So these things add into the spice. If you look at like 1930s, 1940s, I don't think there was a lot of women in yoga classes or watching what they ate. So they're not going to age as well as men. So that's one of the big things. Think about that. Going back to the age thing, right? Any guys out there watching this, have you seen or met a woman 40 plus that you thought was hot, that you thought you'd hook up with? Just put it in the comments below if that's true.
And that's usually at the time where women have the most sexual capital. That's when they get the $1 million. If in sexual agency, that's when they're handed, here's a $1 million check and you've got to make a good investment. Remember what we were talking about, finding a guy who's a good bet for the future? The reason women get so, like Gary V's wife that he's divorcing is so pissed off, or that this is a trophy wife, is because she's taken some of that sexual capital and she's put it into Gary. So what happens is it represents an opportunity cost or a loss, a loss of investment if he doesn't pay off, if it doesn't pay dividends, when her sexual market value decays when she's in her 30s and her 40s. And now he's worth way more, because men's sexual market value tends to peak right around 35, 36, 37 years old, because that's the point at which men have the most potential. I didn't say they're all going to do this, but they made lawyer in the law firm. They made surgeon. They're whatever it is. They built themselves up to have the most of what women find most attractive in a man.
The status
is right around that time. And of course, and as I said before, there's success objects, whatever. He still has to look good. You still have to be in shape. I'm not going to discount the looks aspect of that. He's got to be 6 feet tall. He's got to have a V taper. He's got to have 6-pack abs. Got that. But he also has to have some kind of success. He has to have achieved something, and it takes longer for men to mature into their peak potential than it does for women. So women's peak potential in the sexual marketplace is 23, and for men, it's about 36. Now, does that mean that 36-year-old guys are banging 23-year-old girls? Absolutely not. I'm just saying that they're mutual.
I think absolutely one of the biggest parts here, subconsciously, women are more fertile till 23 to 30. They're more apt to have a kid. to be able to have a healthy kid, right? And so if you find a woman that's really hot, that's in her 40s, right? And let's just say you're late 30s, 40s, right? And you're dating her, it's very possible that you can be as attracted to a 40-plus-year-old woman in this day and age that takes care of herself and looks good just as much as you'd be attracted to a 25-year-old woman, especially if the intimacy is good. This gets kind of lost, right? Because you get seen as a guy with a hot woman and you get status, right? This is how a guy gets status sometimes. You get seen. Now, this guy could be hooking up with this woman and the intimacy, honestly, is not that good, right? But he's seen by friends like, damn, he's hooking up with her. She's bad, right? And he shows up to his friends, shows up to a high school reunion like this guy's talking about with this woman on his arm that's 23, 24, 25, and they're all jealous. The reality is he could be having better intimacy with a 40-year-old woman that knows how to please him and does, but that might be looked at as not as high status, right? Getting back to this whole thing that women peak in their 20s and men peak in their 30s. I would say that that's true overall. And it's due to the fact that men don't have kids, right? So men don't have this biological clock. And if they had a kid, kids have an effect on looks overall, right? So let's be honest about that too. Let's just throw that into the spice. All that being said, like I said, like never before can you age better. But if a man's looking at it like, I'm going to marry this woman, have kids with her long term, of course he wants to be with a woman that's a little bit younger. That being said, he can be highly attracted to a woman that's his age or a little bit older. The question is, would he want to marry that woman? That's a different question. Tell me what you think about that.
Mutually exclusive, okay? So the 23-year-old girl is at the peak of her potential. The guy who's 36, assuming he's made the most of himself and he's the best version of himself that he can be, it's probably going to happen right around 36, 37, somewhere in there, okay? Because it takes longer for him to do so, to work his way up that hierarchy, as I was saying. As this happens, the problem is that once women get down to about 30 years old and men are on their ascension to their peak, that point right there, where and I call it the peak, or the ascension, whatever it is, the peak potential for them, that you'll also notice that is exactly the year, or right around the year, that most men and women get married. When a woman is just on her declination and the guy is on his ascent when it comes to sexual market value. So the guy, and you'll see this is in the United States, it holds true anyways. The average age of first marriage in the United States for men is about 29 to 30 years old. For women, it's about 28 to 29. Right, exactly as that is happening. And so what happens is women want to check out of the sexual marketplace before they age out, and it's that expiration date. And men, they're hoping that men are going to be stupid enough to not to not know that they're going to have more sexual selectivity when they get to be 36, 37 years old. If they take care of themselves, and also as far as reproductive potential is concerned. Every year after 30, your chances of having, successfully conceiving a child and then having no complications as a result of that goes down all the way until you get to be 40. And that's why I raise bloody hell about this. What is it? Freezing your eggs is some sort of like benefit for, what is it, for middle management at Facebook, Fortune 500 companies are offering that as benefits to women who want to pursue their career. It's not interesting. It's not about your career. It's the fact that you can't find the guy that you think you deserve. And so what happens?
That's the thing that Fortune 500 companies are offering their female.
Well, here, this is
C-suite executives.
This is a financial podcast, so let me explain something to you here. If you are investing in the future and you want to do so based on gender or based on sexual trends right now, invest in anything that promotes fear of missing out for women and anything that promotes the idea that their sexual market value will be evergreen forever. So was it cryogenics for ovum cryogenics? That's another one. Anything beauty products, right? Women.
Well, there's a lot of things that can help you stay beautiful and look better. Makeup, like I said, boob jobs, things like that. So those things have been around for a while now, and they're increasing probably. That being said, all this comes down to what's good for you. So you look at these stats, and I believe what Rollo says is true, but is it true to you, right? So these don't apply to everyone. Looks are going to be more fleeting for women than they are for men overall. That's just the dynamic that we've been faced with, right? That's a reality. Men prefer younger women, okay, overall. That being said, there's more exceptions than ever before that a guy can meet someone or meet a woman that's hot, that's in her 40s, do they want to marry her or do they just want to hook up with her? Those are two different things. Now, what she's saying, the woman's saying is like, do you really want to be with someone that's 23, immature, impulsive? From being a breakup coach, because I just deal with breakups primarily, I'm going to tell you right now, there's a lot of guys that end up with these women, and when they get done, and it's not just 23, I'm going to say 23 to 28, and the guy's 10 years older, right? And the guy's just beside himself out of the breakup because he felt so indulged by the whole thing, the status of it, proud of it, right? And then the woman was able just to peel off of him so quickly because she has more options at 22, 23, 28, 29, right? She's got the looks to do it. And guys are completely oblivious to the fact that if you're in a relationship where the woman's 23 to 28, right, there's a higher possibility that she pivots out of the relationship if she's in an environment, whether that's work, friends, colleagues, family members, where she's meeting guys regularly that are pursuing her, that she finds of higher value than you. That's called hypergamy. That is true. So what's getting lost in this debate right here is, if I was going to take another layer to it, what environments are you hanging out in? Because those are going to increase your value. So if someone's in Manhattan, living near Wall Street, right? The highest value, you need to make money, right, to hold value. Now, if you're living in Nebraska in a town of 500 people, that's not going to matter as much. That's not going to so the value is going to be based on environment more than you think. And what happens is these generalizations of, well, America does this, society does this. It's more intricate than that. Societies, subcultures, areas are different, and that's going to place values on men and women differently. So, for example, let's say you had 500 men, right? And it's a military area, and there's only 100 women in town. Alaska's kind of like this from what I've heard. There's a big difference in the ratio of men to women. If there's only 10 women to choose from, and I'm being extreme with this, and there's 500 men in town, right? That 45-year-old woman is going to get a lot of action if she's cute to hot. So that's part of it too. That's why when people go to university, right, and they go, oh, we're going to be long distance, it never works because you're both going to be environments where you have a lot of options. And that's what gets lost in this whole debate, right? What's the environment which is making what the value is? I hope that makes sense. I'll make a separate video about this and attach it to this one. Let me know your thoughts on this overall. And if you want to continue to watch this video, go ahead. Otherwise, let me know in the comments if there's other videos you want me to review or give my reaction to. Take care.